Good afternoon. We welcome you in. It's the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. Very pleased to have you here on the show with us. And Rogers, we have no time to waste here on the Patrick Netherton Show. We've got to get right to another Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame inductee for this season. Had Eli Manning a couple of days ago and got to talk about Eli Manning's experience in Shreveport at the Independence Bowl and then making his way into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We're going to go even more local in Shreveport, and we talked to one of the legends of Shreveport basketball. It is Alana Beard, who is joining us right now. Alana, how are you?
I am great. How are you guys?
I'm doing fantastic. We're making. I mean, I'm not in any Hall of Fames or Halls of Fame. I'm not that good. But we're okay. We're doing all right.
Well, you still have some time, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that once you wrap up your career, that'll be okay.
Yeah, the difference for you guys is, as opposed to broadcasters, typically broadcasters don't get all their laurels until late in life, 60, 65, 70. You're getting your laurels much earlier in your life, and I think that's got to be awesome, right? You can really enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, I suppose, right? I think I've enjoyed it regardless, right? I've been very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to take the path that I took because of this big, round, orange basketball. And so I really enjoyed the process, but I think it's always cool to come back to this moment when, a moment like this Hall of Fame induction is now giving me time to reflect on, not just the accomplishments, but the people and the relationships that I, was capable of, building through that journey. So it feels good.
Well, I will say this. You and I share a bond that you are completely unaware of, and that is your senior season at Duke. They gave you a home game, which you'll always, coaches love to do that, especially if you go kind of away from your home area. You got a home game. You got to play Northwestern State. Right. I'm the voice of Northwestern State. So,
I know, Patrick.
Okay, well, I'm glad you know because I've just got to say it was painful on that end of things, on the NSU end of things. You were great. Team was great. Duke was amazing. But, man, that was tough. Y'all showed out. But, again, an opportunity to kind of play back at home. I've got to imagine that's really special for you.
I mean, anytime I get a chance to play in front of my family and friends, it's always special. And to be able to sort of, in that moment, bring my teammates back, my coaches back, just to give them a little piece of me, it felt really good. It's a moment that I'll always remember. Although it was a blowout, you should feel bad because I think many people have the same experience during that time.
Well, so. It's interesting as well because, we're sitting there and that was a very good Northwestern State team. That was a tournament championship team. They had, really good players. James Smith had done such a terrific job. And I remember thinking when the NCAA tournament bracket comes out and lo and behold, Northwestern State gets shipped to North Carolina to play you guys at Duke, I thought, well, that's a little unfair, right? You played in the regular season. But I will say selfishly, it's the only time I've been in Cameron Indoor. And so, so selfishly, I loved it. I knew the game wasn't going to be good. I knew it was not going to be close, especially playing on your turf. But I got to be in the crow's nest and sweating and, the AC and all that stuff. I love that experience. It was awesome. And you got to play not only Northwestern State, but also Louisiana Tech that season in the tournament. That's got to be cool.
Oh my goodness, you have a really good memory.
No, I'm looking at it online, Alana. I'm literally looking at the schedule as I speak. I do not have a good memory.
Oh goodness, I don't recall any of it. But kudos to you for getting the chance to experience Cameron because it's a once in a lifetime type of moment. I'm just curious to know what was your initial thoughts? Right?
Oh,
was it what you expected? It's a lot smaller.
Well, yeah, but I knew going in it was small, right? Okay. Going in it's small, but I wanted to climb the ladder into the crow's nest where they put the broadcast teams. I wanted to sweat because I knew the AC wasn't good or maybe not even existed at that point. I wanted the whole experience. Yeah, it wasn't very cold is all I'm saying, especially at the top of the building. But you
No,
know,
it's the best place to play, and
yeah.
no bias, but it is. It's one of the best arenas, if not the best in the country.
Well, and but that experience was so cool for me. And so, I appreciated the fact that, look, I knew we were gonna get throttled. I knew Northwestern State was not going to win that game, and it likely wouldn't be close. But the experience, and we had Rebecca Lobo was doing the game, which was even cooler to be able to meet her, a legend. So that's, those, and I want to kind of talk about that because you played in, obviously, Duke, one of the storied programs. You played at, in the WNBA. You played overseas. How much of your journey was about trying to appreciate what you were doing at the time? Do you feel like that you missed out on anything, playing, practicing, working, all of that? Did you also feel like you were able to appreciate the journey you were on?
Oh, absolutely not. But I say that with hesitancy because I knew how grateful I was, and I was always appreciative of having the opportunity. But in terms of just taking a moment to stop to reflect on accomplishments, I doubt that ever happened. Because with the competitive mindset that, most, I guess, elite players have, it's like, all right, I can check that accomplishment off. I'm going to the next. It's like, when we won a championship in 2016 with the LA Sparks, it was like, oh my goodness, this is such an amazing feeling. But I wanted more. My teammates wanted more, and we went after it the next year. So I can't say that I took time to sort of appreciate the moment, and maybe I'll regret it, but that's also the sacrifice that we make to be the best. And at least that was my sacrifice. In terms of like missing anything, it was always the family. I have a niece and a nephew, Cameron and Kagan, and although I was able to give them experiences through sort of my journey, I still missed a lot of their time, and that never feels good. But I wouldn't, change, any decisions or anything about my journey if I had to. It's a blessing and super grateful. Like, I played in 27 countries, Patrick, because of the game of basketball, and I'll never ever question why that was a part of it.
Yeah, and that's it's the interesting thing because I guess the positive and negative of the finances of the WNBA is you had to play overseas in order to make your money while you were a professional, which is bad in that you shouldn't have to. You should be able to make enough money as a pro in the States that you don't have to go have a second job, so to speak. But at the same time, it does allow you to experience things you never would have been able to experience otherwise.
Absolutely. I think, I couldn't say it sort of better. I took full advantage of it. Some of my favorite countries, playing in Israel, Spain, Poland, even Russia. I had a stint there, and can't say that it was my favorite, moment, but I would have never, had those experiences without the game of basketball. But it's also, why I am just super focused on also providing the same experiences to young women in the Shreveport community. How do I bottle up everything that I've learned, everything that I've seen, and share that with the community that has meant so much to me, which is Shreveport.
Yeah, and speaking of, you've obviously created a foundation as a part of that. Kind of give us the lay of what that is, and what are you trying to get accomplished with your foundation back here in your home area?
Right, it's exactly what I said. I could have easily started this, the foundation. It's called the 318 Foundation, obviously named after the area code, in honor of the area code of Shreveport, Louisiana. But I could have done this years ago. But I was always cognizant of not putting my name and face on something and just allowing sort of my quote-unquote team to operate it. I wanted to be hands-on because it is near and dear to my heart. So I would say I played my last game in October of 2019. And during that period of transitioning from the courts to the venture capital space, I had 5 months to just relax. But I can't say that I relaxed because I spent that 5 months in Shreveport, Louisiana, on a mission to just understand and just to listen to what the community needed. And so as I met with, Mayor Perkins at the time, community stakeholders, people that are just on the ground doing the work, Superintendent Lamar Goree, and just like taking notes in terms of what was needed. And so the one thing that kind of came to the top of that list was just mentorship. and experiences. And so the 318 Foundation is simply a model based on mentorship and experiences where we're focusing on high school girls in Shreveport and creating opportunities for them. Just to give you a little taste of what we're doing, we have 2 girls right now that's here in Washington, D.C. with me going through a leadership summit and academy. That, and it's just amazing to watch them just experience new things. And I won't say a name or anything like that, but one of the first experiences was one of the young women getting on an escalator, and she was nervous to get on it. And I was like, "Why are you nervous?" She said, "Because I've never been on one." Right. And so those are just little moments that we just take for granted, but those are also the moments that I want to give these young women, leverage everything that I have, the opportunities, the access, the resources, the relationships, and just pour into the Shreveport community, because I owe everything to that community that literally helped me get to where I am.
It's funny you mentioned an escalator. I was actually had a doctor's appointment, and I was sitting in the lobby waiting on a buddy of mine to come pick me up and take me back to the house. And there was a mom and her 2 kids, and one of the kids didn't know how escalators worked. And she was like, "Okay, look, you just, you stand here, you put your hands on the side, you just, let it take you up. Don't move or whatever." And I that's something you think of, you get educated in as a kid. Right. So
100%.
So it's kind of interesting that some of the mentorship is things that maybe we take for granted.
Absolutely. And every moment is a teachable moment. And I just make sure that I'm intentional and that I'm aware of everything that's going on around me, but everything that's going on around these young women. We're super fortunate to be back. You may know this name, but the Andre Agassi Foundation for Education and Steve Miller are my anchor donors in helping me get this thing up and running. And on top of that, the Ingolstadt Family Foundation also just made a significant sort of donation to the organization. So we have a ton of momentum, and my goal is to create a sustainable model that's around for years and years to come.
And look, there's nothing greater than giving back to the community that kind of gave you what you had. Talking to Alana Beard, who is heading into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies 27th, 28th, 29th. So really in 2 weeks from now is when things will get underway down in Natchitoches. I'm curious with the current state of the WNBA where it is, and obviously with what happened to Brittany Griner in Russia, there's so much more of a spotlight now on the income inequality and the fact that so many of these players do have to go and play somewhere else. Do you think, or do you see a solution to that on the horizon? And if so, any idea what that may be, to try to make sure that we're keeping our home country folks here in our country and not making them have to go overseas and play to make a living?
No, I think that's a great question, and you can, if you're following women's sports or just sports in general, you can see that it's happening. I think LeBron James spoke up about it on the ESPYs last night in terms of encouraging individuals to support the WNBA. This is a great product. We're the best league in the world when it comes to professional women's sports, but unfortunately, we only have 144 spots. And so, to your point, or to your question about what can we do to change sort of the narrative around WNBA players having to travel internationally, it's a complicated answer, but a simple answer is just expansion. With expansion comes more focus and emphasis on sort of the women's game in the WNBA. But on top of that, you now have people who are invested in this league at a very high level, and they're intentional about how these dollars are spent and where they go. And so getting expansion done, tapping into sort of more of these corporations to get them to understand sort of the power and the dynamic that are associated with the WNBA, I think is the way to go. When you think about the WNBA, these women, we were at the forefront of so many, challenging issues. We were the ones that were leading sort of that conversation that some people didn't want to have. And I can't think of a better sort of product or league to invest in than the WNBA. So I think it's happening. It's just a matter of when expansion will happen, and I think that'll change the narrative around the world.
Well, when I realized that women's basketball was kind of on the move in the right direction is when the Louisiana, and no offense to any of these teams, but when the Louisiana Techs and the Stephen F. Austins and the Old Dominions of the world stopped being the top programs, when you saw these other programs, LSU never invested in women's basketball for years and years and years, and now they're national champions, and they lured Kim Mulkey there and Caitlin, Angel Reese, and that breeds a new era of superstars like we're seeing, and I think the college basketball game on the women's side has never been better in terms of visibility. So it feels like what y'all were able to do as pioneers is starting to finally trickle down, and we're now seeing the effects of that, where the younger girls that are watching this 10, 15 years ago are now growing up and wanting to play women's college basketball and wanting to then go into the WNBA. It does feel like we're starting to see those seeds start to grow.
No, absolutely, right. I was a product of the generation before me, benefiting off of what, the foundation that they laid. And so it's really cool to just see it all happening in real time right now. But to your point about, schools and institutions now investing in sort of the women's sports and women's games, that was what was needed. You named Kim Mulkey, but I can name Dawn Staley, right? She came out and probably signed one of the biggest contracts there is to sign in women's basketball, because she's proven out the model. She's proven that with investment, with resources, she can too build out a dynamic and dominant sort of organization. Kim Mulkey proved it. Gino Auriemma proved it. And so what's next? Invest. And so you see people doing it at a high level. I think another thing that really is changing the landscape now is just the name, image, and likeness aspect of everything. I think the NCAA opened up a can of worms. I think obviously everyone thinks that it could be done different or it should have been done differently. But these young women or these athletes deserve to sort of be compensated for, the things that they bring to the institution. My friends and I have conversations about it all the time, Patrick. Imagine if, I was getting compensated for being a part of putting Duke on the map, right? It would be a completely different story. And I probably wouldn't have to play overseas.
Yeah, you would have certainly left with a pretty large nest egg to build upon. And look, I'm sort of a part of an institution, but I also understand from the other side. I love the idea that athletes are able to benefit from themselves, as they should have all along. It's kind of the capitalist way. And so they should have been able to do this the entire when you were at Duke and you were a superstar and you're Naismith Award winner and all of that, they should have been, you should have been able to say, hey, I'm Alana Beard, and go buy certs or whatever. I don't know. You should have been able to have all that stuff. And and of course the major difference is we didn't have social media then. And, Livy Dunn, who's the highest paid female athlete in college sports, the gymnast from LSU, she is what she is because she's got millions of people who follow her on social media. And so while there can be a lot of bad with social media, certainly there's a lot of good. And that's what we're seeing, right? The Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark confrontation, if you will, at the end of that game, the championship game. If social media doesn't exist, that's something you're talking to your friends at work or whatever. It's not something that explodes the way it is, but it also I thought it elevated the game a little bit, right? It's the first time we've seen trash talking. That's awesome. I love that.
What I think is so funny is that you're absolutely right. It definitely elevated the game. Social media and other streaming services now provide so much more access and visibility. But when you talk about trash talking, Diana Taurasi is probably the biggest trash talker that I've ever competed against.
And everybody says that.
If social media was around at the level it is today, it would be a different narrative around women's sports.
Sure.
And that moment that happened that was so big between Angel and Caitlin wouldn't have been sort of, it wouldn't have been a big deal. And so the reason why it was a big deal, because we had so many new spectators watching the game that don't necessarily understand the competitiveness and the high level play that women can do and be, right? And so I think that's why it became so big. It was just new spectators just shocked because they've never watched it before.
Well, I'll say this. I learned everything I needed to know about women competing in sports, and this is going to seem like a ridiculous example, but we were playing, pickup ball basically. Back at Centenary College, we'd have what we call noon ball. It was a lot of media members and then, just random folks. And we had a member of the Centenary ladies team came in and played with us, and she guarded me. And I'm 6'4" at that time. I'm probably about 330, 340, right? I mean, I could just squash this poor girl. And I'm thinking, oh man, like this, I don't want to hurt this poor kid. Like this is going to be bad. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go post up like I normally do. And I get in the block, and the first thing I feel is an elbow straight in the middle of my back. And I went, okay, now I understand. No backing down. We're here to play. Let's go. And then everything was fine. And that's when I realized that, and you hear soccer players talk about it all the time. Women's soccer players tend to be more vicious than the men's soccer players when it comes to that. So I love the fact that we're starting to be able to see that in the realm and out there in public now. I love that.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. The basketball, it's a ball, right? The game is universal. If you go out, showcase your skills, and I'm a big component of just letting the game speak for itself. And right now, it's doing that.
Yeah. Last thing, just comment on being, hearing that you're elected to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Obviously, someone from Shreveport. You're going to get to be in Natchitoches in a couple of weeks. That's going to be awesome. Just tell me about, finding out about it and just how neat it is for you to be recognized in that way by your home state.
Yeah, no, I don't take it for granted. Something that I appreciate. I think what I'm looking, forward to is just, enjoying this moment with my family. We had the opportunity to be at Duke together for the Duke Hall of Fame induction in December, and just having this moment in my hometown, not hometown but home state, is going to be a precious moment. But on top of that, I am now getting educated on the athletes that, were really, really good in Louisiana. So it's a lot of fun to read up on the backgrounds of my fellow, inductees. And I look forward to just meeting everyone and just sharing this moment together. So
it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. It's 2 weeks from today, the first event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 27th, 28th, and 29th. Alana, congratulations to you. And looking forward to seeing you down there in Natchitoches, and hope that everything goes well.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
All right. Alana Beard, former Southwood, Duke, WNBA superstar. Great to chat with her.